But look at this absolute incredible onslaught of people who are going to be subpoenaed to give a deposition. Hillary Clinton is ostensibly going to be hauled before the House Oversight Committee. Former President Bill Clinton, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, FBI Director James Comey, Bill Barr, a staggering 69% agree it's critical that the perpetrators be held accountable for the survival of our country. Even more disturbing for Democrats is it's not just Republicans who are concerned. 56% of Democrats are following the investigation. 32% believe serious crimes were committed, and 59% agree the perpetrators must be held accountable. I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit back to June, back to what I think was one of the most fascinating and wild things to come out of the government ever. And it's this ODNI, Tulsi Gabbard's office press release on Wednesday at the president's direction and with support of the House, Select Committee on Intelligence, Chairman Rick Crawford, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, released a declassified oversight majority staff report produced by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. There's the acronym. In September 2020, that detailed how the Obama administration manufactured an intelligence community assessment they knew was false. The Obama administration lied to America, manufactured intelligence. I mean, we've been following this. We know the story. But what got me was really this quote. This is Tulsi Gabbard. The stunning revelations these intelligence documents expose should concern every American. There is irrefutable evidence detailing how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false, promoting the contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win. Think about what they're saying there. Irrefutable evidence that Obama and his lackeys manufactured intelligence to interfere, to contrive a narrative that Russia interfered to help President Trump win. It's just absolutely incredible. The documents were released. The documents we released shows how they did it, manufacturing findings from shoddy sources, suppressing evidence that disproved their false claims, disobeying intelligence community tradecraft standards, and withholding the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people and work with their partners in the media to promote this lie to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump. It's like a seditious conspiracy. This kicked off what would essentially be a years-long coup, strong words, against President Trump, which included federal investigations, 2 impeachments, FBI raids on his home with deadly force, arrests of senior officials, smears and harassment of President Trump and his family, and more. The American people deserve truth, accountability, and justice. So I've been saying this. Transparency is more than just hearing the truth. It's accountability and justice. That's what we're talking about tonight, and we polled on it using a Tulsi Gabbard quote. But I want to show you this too. I said we talk about Epstein. Here's Google search trend volume for Epstein. And what's wild is that Epstein isn't a former politician. He's not a former president. He's not the former Secretary of State and senator and presidential candidate. And so you'd imagine that just randomly organic search trend volume for the name Epstein would be lower than Obama or Clinton. And for most of recorded history, according to Google, I mean, that is absolutely correct. Look at this blue line. Nobody cares. Even the spikes where Epstein was, suicided are really small, considering like here's Obama's search term in 2008. So let's look at the last 90 days though. And what you'll see is that people were searching for Epstein way more than Obama and Clinton. And there was an uptick in searches for Obama slightly, But these search trends, Epstein is moderated. It's gone down quite a bit. People aren't searching for it as much. But also, this stuff doesn't necessarily appear to be getting into the news yet. And we've gotten dribbles out of the Trump administration. We've got a lot of fascinating new stuff. The left is still fixated on Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell claims Trump gave her power over Epstein transcripts. House Republicans issue subpoena for Jeffrey Epstein files. So it's like half of the hot posts. That's not as much as it was. It was like 70, 80%. So I wonder if the left is pivoting towards this redistricting thing. This is where it's going. Like, this is the latest news, and this is going to get big.
Well, Will, good to be with you. This is coming out of the Justice Department. Fox News can confirm that Attorney General Pam Bondi today signed an order directing an unnamed U.S. federal prosecutor to take evidence to a grand jury relating to an alleged conspiracy to tie then 2016 candidate Donald Trump to the country of Russia. Now, Fox News reviewed the one-page order
grand
just hours
jury
ago signed by the Attorney General. A source familiar with the probe confirms this as well, while a DOJ spokesperson declined to comment on this report of an investigation. Fox is told Attorney General Bondi is taking the referrals from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, quote, very seriously. The spokesperson says that Bondi believes there is, quote, clear cause for deep concern, end quote, and a need for the next steps. Now, this move, Will, comes just a couple of weeks after the Director of National Intelligence, you see her right there, Tulsi Gabbard, sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department regarding what she says proves there was a conspiracy to undermine Trump's candidacy and later his term in office. Now, to be clear today, there are no charges that have been filed, no indictments. This is incredibly early in the process. What we have here is taking evidence the Justice Department believes it has to a grand jury to secure an eventual indictment or indictments. We don't know exactly where the grand jury will meet. We don't know who will go before the grand jury, and that's by design, because grand juries determine if there's enough evidence to indict, and grand juries are secretive in the American legal system, so it's normal not to know all of the answers.
Well, according to Tulsi, we have a lot of evidence
on any comment regarding this investigation. But, Will, big news, this was signed by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, today to take this evidence of an alleged conspiracy to a grand jury with the hope to get an indictment.
That's wild news. So we heard about the criminal referrals just about a week or two ago. Now we have a grand jury. That's fast. And I believe I heard the rumor that the grand jury was impaneled in Florida, not Washington, D.C., because some of these actions took place in Florida. That was a very critical piece that a lot of people who were watching this thought was very important, because it's much more likely that if charges are brought, and I have a hard time believing they're not going to be based on how strong the wording was from Tulsi Gabbard. If charges are brought, it's much more likely these chuckleheads will be convicted in Florida than in Washington, D.C. That is going to cause holy hell with the Democrats, because what they're going to portray this is that a Republican state is taking revenge against a former sitting president for their own manufactured hoax. That's what this is going to look like. And so this is great. It's the accountability and justice that we've wanted. And yet, at the same time, the matrix within which we all appear to be operating tells me that, I just have a suspicion that they're going to use this to drive a bigger wedge between Republican and Democrat states. I think this is where it's going. And that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because as we all know, if you've been following us, 43% of America thinks there's going to be a civil war in the next few years. And not only that, I mean, that was crazy, but a majority of both Republicans and Democrats thought there was going to be a violent reaction to the outcome of this election. But it's not just the grand jury and these, potential impending indictments. It's also, James Comer, good guy. He's the chair of the House Oversight Committee, obviously a pretty powerful committee. Obviously, he has a lot of connections within the Republican Party, but having talked with him before in Washington, D.C., and hearing about how his personal vendetta was going after this auto pen scandal, I wonder how much of this is also just him independently pursuing this stuff and not necessarily part of the plan. But look at this absolute incredible onslaught of people who are going to be subpoenaed to give a deposition to the committee. Now, are these going to be public? I don't think so. Will these people defy the subpoena? Probably. Will these people be indicted like Steve Bannon for defying subpoenas? I don't know. But Hillary Clinton on October 9th is ostensibly going to be hauled before the House Oversight Committee. Former President Bill Clinton on October 14th. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. FBI Director James Comey. Bill Barr. Coming up soon. This is U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Now, that's an interesting one. FBI Director Robert Mueller. I don't know how they're going to do that. I heard he was in a dementia facility. Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder. And then look at Keith Olbermann adding nothing to the conversation. Brian Cates, just so you know, some of these people who got subpoenas are going to try to get cute and refuse to appear. Well, what'll be interesting is if some refuse to appear and others don't. Good thing the DC federal courts clearly established that refusing to comply with a congressional subpoena is a federal crime, asked Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. But this is this is a whole new level of political gamesmanship. And again, I wish every Republican was playing Smash Mouth like this. Some of them are. We're going to talk about that. But here is the New York Post piece that I was referring to that quotes some really good Rasmussen polling, and we're going to look at the crosstabs too. Miranda Devine, Russiagate lies are being exposed, and everybody is watching, even the Democrats. Despite the best efforts of Russiagate complicit media to dismiss as Russian disinformation, the latest revelations in this escalating scandal implicating President Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton in the treasonous years-long coup against President Trump, the public is paying attention and wants heads to roll. According to a Rasmussen poll released Monday, nearly two-thirds of voters, 65%, are following declassified releases over the past month by DNI Tulsi Gabbard and Senator Chuck Grassley very closely or somewhat closely, 32-33%, repudiating the calculated media silence about the Obama administration's fake narratives and manipulation of intelligence to frame as a Kremlin stooge Trump to cover up Clinton's wrongdoing. Yeah, that is right. There was an aspect of covering up the email stuff, but then it became a coup because I think Trump had already acknowledged that he wasn't going to go after Hillary Clinton after the election. And Obama was still manufacturing documents and stuff, I'm pretty sure up until January. I think, maybe it was the December 16th date or whatever. But the poll of almost 1,200 likely voters conducted just days ago shows 54% believe Obama administration officials committed serious crimes in manipulating intelligence, with 37% saying it's very likely, 17% somewhat. A staggering 69% agree it's critical that the perpetrators be held accountable for the survival of our country. Even more disturbing for Democrats is it's not just Republicans who are concerned. 56% of Democrats are following the investigation. 32% believe serious crimes were committed, and 59% agree the perpetrators must be held accountable. This held up in our other polling about the the CIA stuff, the CIA, FBI, Russiagate stuff. Back when the stuff about John Brennan came out and we polled on, if these people were manipulating intelligence, a plurality of Democrats said, even though the question said that they were doing it to get Trump, a plurality of Democrats thought that they should go to prison. So that's a very encouraging sign. If you can convince Democrats that there is criminal wrongdoing, they will support accountability by a strong plurality or a majority. The problem is how the media frames it. That's ultimately the issue. And so we're still in an information war. The information war is going to be fought over this issue, I think, for the foreseeable next couple of months. The respective Republican comparison is 75%, 83%, and 86%. So, like all Republicans. Yeah, she talks about Hispanics, men more concerned than women. It's a demonstration of the impotence of Democrat allied media like the New York Times, Washington Post, ABC, NBC, and CBS, who all have very, very, very bad pollsters, which showered themselves with praise and Pulitzer Prizes for their since debunked stories about Russiagate and are hoping their audience is willing to be duped again. But like the boy who cried wolf, no one is listening anymore. According to Gabbard's office, these outfits spent a total of almost 2,300 minutes covering Russiagate, yet they have devoted only 2 minutes and 17 seconds on the disclosures of the last couple of weeks. That's pretty astounding. Even when they mention the story, it's a try to debunk it. Obama administration CIA Director John Brennan and DNI James Clapper and Clinton lawyer Mark Elias have fanned out across their favorite media outlets, desperately trying to extinguish public interest. I am imploring, like honestly, I'm just imploring the media, do not report this as a legitimate investigation, Mark Elias told MSNBC. Do not report this as they are opening an investigation into John Brennan. Report this as a misuse, the abuse, the authoritarian takeover of the Department of Justice. That should be the headline. So Mark Elias, who has a lot of power, a lot of ability to electioneer, he's like literally one of the key elements here in their operation, is out there threatening the news, telling them how to cover it, giving them headlines on what to say about this. Too bad for Elias. It's no longer 2016. The public and Trump are wiser and more determined to put heads on pikes. There it is. Heads on pikes. The renewed scrutiny of the Obama administration's conspiracies to subvert Trump's 2016 victory and presidency, as Gabbard puts it, began early last month when CIA Director John Ratcliffe released a bombshell review of the intelligence community assessment ordered by Obama on December 9th. 2016 that falsely claimed that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election to help Trump. The review found Brennan, Clapper, and then FBI Director James Comey were excessively involved in the ICA drafting, rushed it to completion before Trump took office, and forced the inclusion of the discredited Steele dossier over the objections of the CIA's Russia experts, suggesting a potential political motive. She's a really good writer here. She's really distilling because there was a lot of stuff. Like if you read the release, it's a lot harder to follow exactly what went on. So she boiled it down really well there. Treasonous conspiracy. That ICA was the genesis of Russiagate, casting doubt over the legitimacy of Trump's 2016 election and sabotaging his first term. With Obama, the ringleader, says Trump, and Democrat allied media were crucial to its success. I want to go back and show you this. This is the first year of the approval rating of every president going back to Obama 1. And what do you notice is that Trump's first term was the lowest first year of any of the presidents. He literally went under everybody in the beginning of March. And he stayed there all the way until FJB Biden in October of 21, really the last week of September. And so his summer had an appalling approval rating, plunging all the way down to some nights in 38 and 37% territory on no bad news. Like he was just doing his job. And it was all Rachel Maddow talking about Mueller, all the latest things. They're going to get his tax releases. They're finally going to get Trump. So this was a seditious conspiracy to undermine a president, and it was effective. It was very effective. Now, he was able to turn it around, and people saw through it increasingly over the last couple of years of his term. And of course, the positive economic news and his wins stacked up. But imagine what it would have been like if they had not stolen his political capital with this very, very cynical misuse of power and blatant lying It really is treasonous. And I think heads need to roll. And so does the American people. So let's get to the crosstabs. Now, she made a lot of news about how closely people are following it. I don't know. I think this number of people will say they're closely following anything. 32% very closely, 33% somewhat. So it's a combined total of 65. That's roughly about how closely people are following things like Epstein. But, if there was like a celebrity suicide or some kind of like scandal with, you know what I mean? Like people would say higher because it would be in the news more. Like Miranda Devine said, this is not getting into the news. It's not driving narratives. Who's following it more very closely is older voters, and that's a very pleasant sign. I hope this turns them around because I think they're souring on Trump a little bit because of stuff like fears that he might cut Medicaid. And also, 18 to 29-year-olds are more getting online stuff. And you have to admit that this just doesn't have the same kind of pizzazz as the Epstein stuff did. 18 to 29-year-olds were following that more closely. White voters following it more closely, but not by much. And Republicans more. 41% very, still kind of low, but a combined 74%, at least somewhat closely. But a decent number of Democrats, roughly tying independents. So not that much to see there. A recent report from the DNI concluded that President Obama's national security team manipulated and manufactured intelligence to promote a false narrative about Russia and Donald Trump. You could say, all right, I'm priming the question. And it's like, yeah, but it's a very straightforward, factual statement. This happened. What do you think about it? We ask these questions all the time. And I disclose the exact words that I say to people. This isn't, hey, President Obama killed a kitten. What do you think about President Obama? And then I leave that part out of the question. We don't do that here. We don't do push polling. This is a very legitimate question. How likely is it that Obama administration officials committed serious crimes in manipulating intelligence? So what this is kind of like saying, hey, the DNI, a government official, which some people might not trust, even if it's Trump, concluded that Obama's team manipulated and manufactured intelligence to promote a false narrative about Russia and Donald Trump. How likely is it that they committed serious crimes? So it's like, if they manipulated intelligence, is that manipulation a serious crime? And a majority agree with that, 54% to 41%. A 13-point majority. Meanwhile, at the time, Trump was underwater 3 points. And only 28% say not at all likely. 37% say very likely. That's a really strong signal. It's not quite the Department of Justice is Banana Republic type signal, but I'd say that this is pretty good considering that this is all really brand new. It's the summer. News isn't really covering it. It doesn't have a whole lot of sizzle. People have been hearing about Russia collusion for years and years and years now. And so I think these numbers are going to go up. This is a very bad sign for them. Again, 65 and older, very closely watching it. But, look, a combined total of 65% of 18 to 29-year-olds. That's a big deal. More men than women. A lot of Hispanic voters. Miranda was talking about that. 2/3 of Hispanic voters say it's likely. 60% of Republicans, 20 say very likely, 23% somewhat, 83%. So Republicans, that's a really high number. Remember, 15% of Republicans plus in my polls say they voted for Harris. So this is a really high number. It's almost all of the Trump supporting Republicans are like, yes, Obama officials likely committed serious crimes. 47% of independents say it's likely. 46% say not likely. So they're split, acknowledging that they're underwater 11 points with Trump right now. And 32% of Democrats. Only 46% of Democrats say not at all likely. So less than half of Democrats confidently refute that Obama officials committed serious crimes with the intelligence community. That's wild. Like, that's a big deal. And the last question, agree with the quote, this is the heads rolling signal. I asked our managing editor, let's write a question about heads rolling, about criminal accountability. because my hypothesis was that Americans want arrests, not just transparency. Do you agree or disagree with this statement about the manipulation of intelligence in the Obama administration? Accountability has to take place. It's critical for the survival of our country that people who perpetrated such crimes are held accountable. And everybody agrees. 69% agree, 48% strongly, 21% disagree. So only 54% think that maybe this manipulation of intelligence by the Obama administration is a serious crime. But then you're like, well, accountability has to take place, though. If people perpetrated crimes, they have to be held accountable. Everybody agrees. Only 11% strongly disagree. And what's wild is that, again, 18 to 29-year-olds weren't following this as closely, but you sprinkle accountability on here, and their number shoots up. 41% say strongly agree. 66% of them, 2/3 of them agree. That's crazy. Women catch back up to men when you say accountability. White voters, accountability, they like that word. 69% of white voters. But, everybody's almost there. The Hispanic number beats the white number. The black number's high, 65%, but it's not. What's that with Hispanics? That's 74%. Republicans, 86%, all of them. 59% of Democrats, 38% strongly agree. This is what I mean. Don't say transparency. It's not good enough. Justice, accountability, criminal accountability, arrests. That's what will cure our crisis level lack of institutional trust. It's really the only way. You can't just beg and plead people to return to a system of integrity. People who have been enriching themselves, people who have broken the rules and committed crimes, they're not just going to come clean because you're begging them to, or because you're saying that now that I'm in charge, they are clean. They're going to laugh at you and keep breaking the rules. The only thing that's going to work with these people is to throw enough of them in jail that people get to the top of the heap that are willing to rebuild a system of trust and integrity. So this is what I've been saying, and it was really predictable because, as you guys know, only 30% of voters trust the federal government. 70% don't. The same 70% of people who are angry at the level of waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal government, and the same 70% of people who want folks who committed serious crimes held criminally accountable.